Dream Team. How Michael, Magic, Larry, Charles, and the greatest team of all time conquered the world and changed the game of basketball forever. By Jack McCallum. Narrated by Dick Hill. Copyright 2012 by Jack McCallum. This unabridged audiobook is recorded by arrangement with Ballantine Books, an imprint of the Random House Publishing Group, a division of Random House Incorporated, and was produced in the year 2012 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. The older I get, the less interested I am in what's new, and the more interested I am in what endures. James Hines. To live is to fly, low and high, so shake the dust off your wings and the sleep out of your eyes. Townes Van Zandt. I don't know nothing about Angola, but Angola's in trouble. Charles Barkley. 1992 Dream Team. Thumbnail sketches. Barkley, Charles, 6'4", forward. TNT commentator whose fame has grown exponentially since retirement. Boldly continues to play celebrity golf despite universally lampooned swing. Leading scorer for Dream Team. Known in Barcelona for rambling along Las Ramblas and elbowing an Angolan. Bird, Larry, 6'9", forward. At this writing, still general manager of the Indiana Pacers, but longing for golden years. Limited by aching back in Barcelona that led to post-Olympics retirement. Struck up unlikely Dream Team friendship with Patrick Ewing. Engaged Chris Mullin in legendary horse shootout. Drexler, Clyde, 6'7", guard. Businessman, golfer, dancing with the stars veteran. Wants to be NBA head coach. Happy to have been Dream Teamer, but unhappy he was added late. Remembered for wearing 2 left shoes to practice and trying to get away with it. Does not believe Michael Jordan was better than he was. Ewing, Patrick, 7-foot center. Assistant coach with Orlando Magic and perturbed he's been unable to get interview for head coaching job. Much more popular with dreamer teammates than with press. Harry half of Harry and Larry. Johnson, Irvin, 6'9", guard. Guiding force behind Magic Johnson Enterprises, having made good on long ago vow to become big-time player in business world. Sometimes irritated dreamers with "it's my team" attitude, but changed millions of attitudes worldwide about HIV and AIDS. At this writing, scheduled to be immortalized on Broadway along with Bird in play about their seminal importance to NBA. Jordan, Michael, 6'6", guard, chairman of the Charlotte Bobcats, trying to make it right after bad experience running Washington Wizards. Serenaded aggravated Magic with Be Like Mike solo after legendary intra-squad scrimmage win. Acknowledged by all dreamers as team's alpha male and greatest of all time, with Magic holding out just a little and Drexler holding out a lot. Leitner Christian, 6'11", forward. His BD Ventures, co-run with ex-Duke teammate Brian Davis, has had cash flow problems. At this writing, wants to get into coaching. Seems serious about changing spoiled brat image. Earned way onto Dream Team by being immortal college player. Malone, Carl, 6'9", forward. Serious big game hunter who wants back into NBA in some capacity. Work ethic was inspiration to several other members of Dream Team. Jordan Magic woof fests at practice got under his skin. Mullin, Chris, 6'6", guard forward. Successful as ESPN commentator, but might get another shot at front office job after failure in Golden State. Barcelona sharpshooting, 6'19" overall, 5'38" on three-pointers, a firm selection to skeptics, and Dream Nod reaffirmed benefits of sobriety to him. Pippen Scottie, 6'8" guard forward, has had serious money problems, but with commentating gig and reality show wife never far from public eye. Hinted LeBron James was better than Jordan, then took it back. Kind of. Showed he belonged on Dream Team with world-class versatility. Robinson David, 7'1" center, runs private school in San Antonio called Carver Academy. Faith-based activities govern his life, mostly outsider to other members of Dream Team, but universally respected. Teamed with a Marsalis for rooftop duet in Barcelona. Stockton John, 6'1" guard, full-time chauffeur for his family in his hometown Spokane, and couldn't be happier. Tutored star women's guard Courtney Vandersloot at alma mater Gonzaga. Broken leg limited Dream Team play. Daly Chuck, coach, died of cancer in 2009. Vowed never to take a time out in Barcelona and didn't. Everybody loved him. Everybody misses him. Introduction. You have a tape? Michael Jordan asks. Of that game? I do, I say. Man, everybody asks me about that game, he says. It was the most fun I ever had on a basketball court. It is reflective of the enduring legend of the Dream Team, arguably the most dominant squad ever assembled in any sport, that we are referring not to a real game, but to an intra-squad scrimmage that the Dreamers played in Monte Carlo before the 1992 Olympic Games. The United States engaged in 14 games in that summer 2 decades ago, 6 in a pre-Olympic qualifying tournament, and 8 as they breezed to the gold medal in Barcelona. And the closest any opponent came was a fine Croatia team, which lost by 32 points in the gold medal final. The common matrices of statistical comparison, you see, are simply not relevant in the case of the Dream Team, whose members could be evaluated only when they played one another. A video of that game is the holy grail of basketball, and the account of it is here in Chapter 28. A perfect storm hit Barcelona in the summer of the Dream Team. Everything came together. The team members were almost exclusively NBA veterans at or near the apex of their individual fame. The world, having been offered only bite-sized nuggets of NBA games, was waiting for them, since Barcelona was the first Olympics in which professional basketball players were allowed to compete. They were a star-spangled export for a country that still held a position of primacy around the world. It couldn't have been scripted any better, and when the Dreamers finally released all that star power into a collective effort, the show was better than everyone thought it would be, and everyone had thought it would be pretty damn good. They were Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison, the Allman Brothers at Fillmore East, Santana at Woodstock. If it would have happened today, says Larry Bird, it would have been one of those reality shows. The names, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, remain familiar to fans 2 decades later, their cultural relevancy quotient still quite high. It's not just that an engaging Dream Teamer, who's now an A-list TV star, partially inspired Danger Mouse and CeeLo Green to christen their hip-hop duo Gnarls Barkley, or that Magic Johnson, Red Hot Chili Peppers and Kanye West, Scottie Pippen, Jay-Z, Karl Malone, the Transplants, and Michael Jordan, impossible to count the references, have been subjects in song. Consider this. The name of John Stockton, a buttoned-down, no-nonsense point guard, is on a track in a 2011 release by Brooklyn rapper Nemo Akita, and the popular NBA 2K12 video game features Jordan, Magic, and Bird on the box cover, not contemporary players such as LeBron James, Dirk Nowitzki, and Derrick Rose. The Dream Teamers are never far from the news, even the crime news. Not long ago, a convict tattooed Jordan's Jumpman logo onto his forehead, and an accused rapist in Arkansas, in an interview after he was captured, described his run from the cops this way: "I was like Michael Jordan, man. Gone." An armed robber asked that his sentence be increased from 30 years to 33 years to honor Larry Bird's number. Yet the written record of that team and that time is not particularly large. The Dream Team, like the dinosaurs, walked the earth in the pre-social media age. Beyond newspaper stories, there is no detailed daily log of their basketball activities. Bird shot around today, but his back is sore, and no enduring exclamations of chance meetings around Barcelona. "OMG, just met Chaz Bark at bar and he kissed me on cheek. He's not really fat, LOL." There is much of the story to be told in the fresh light of history. There is little doubt that the Dream Team, like that red-haired lass you met years ago at a pub in Dublin, looks better in the soft focus blur of nostalgia. This is now the Dream Team of blessed memories, says NBA Commissioner David Stern. They were the guy with the piccolo and the scrappy band of revolutionaries marching off to war. They forget Charles elbowing the Angolan, Michael and the others covering up their logo, the cries of, "Why are we sending these teams? You're just trying to humiliate the other nations." Over the years, it's become beatified. None of that is forgotten in this audiobook, Mr. Stern. The Dream Team was indeed forged amid conflicts athletic and bureaucratic, and touched by tragedy and controversy when it returned home after an Olympics that, yes, was layered in a gauzy romanticism. All that is part of the story. The book is, in fact, a panoptic survey of that entire generation, in large part because the members of the Dream Team represented the central characters in the compelling drama of pro basketball from the mid-1980s to the early 1990s, a golden age for the NBA that ended when the fairy tale world of the Dream Team itself ended in August 1992. The narrative unfolds in roughly, emphasis on roughly, chronological fashion. It struck me as crucial to give definition to the players before they were Dream Teamers. Michael Jordan as the young hero of the 1984 Olympics, Scottie Pippen as the neophyte struggling to play alongside his infinitely more famous Chicago Bulls teammate, Charles Barkley as the unbridled wild child, and, of course, the 1980s rivalry of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Then, too, the selection process, how the team came together, is in some ways more riveting than the games themselves. It was political theater, a kind of convention without the pom-poms, a process in which backstabbing and rivalries, current and ancient, all played a part. But it was also important to provide glimpses of the players as they are now, some in their hometowns, Phoenix, Houston, San Antonio, Spokane, some in their places of business, Charlotte and Orlando. These are defined as interludes. So there are stops and starts to the narrative, which emerges as more like a magic yo-yo dribble than a Barkley straight-ahead bowl-over-any-obstacle dash to the hoop. Like all of us, in later life they have found failure, some as husbands or fathers, others as coaches, general managers, or businessmen. But from a basketball perspective, they approached perfection. They are history writ large, the greatest team of all time by such a wide margin, says Dallas Mavericks general manager Donnie Nelson, who coached against them in the Olympics, that I can't even think of who's in second place. The best barometer of what this team meant to history is limned by the words of one of its most prominent members, a man who won 5 NBA championships, 3 MVP awards, one NCAA title, and an untold number of popularity contests. For me, the Dream Team is number one of anything I've done in basketball, says Magic Johnson, because there will never be another team like it. There can't be. Prologue. The Dream Team Gets a Name. Barcelona, 1992. I knew it was a bad idea from the beginning. I swear I did. But David Dupree, my friend and colleague from USA Today, kept pushing it. "We've covered the Dream Team from the beginning," said David. "We should get our picture taken with them. It's no big deal. It'll be something to look back on." Taking a photo with famous athletes seemed like the last thing David would suggest, but such was the overheated temperature of the times when the phrase Dream Team was on the lips of everyone in the world, not just the sports world, when helicopters dotted the bleached Spanish sky like fireflies to protect the millionaire players, when snipers sat on the roof of their hotel in Barcelona to take down potential assassins wanting to enter the history books, when adoring fans congregated around the clock just to catch a fleeting glimpse of the 12 Americans who were in the process of storming to the gold medal and rewriting basketball history. "I'll run it by Magic," said Karl Malone when we asked the mailman about the photo. Karl, David, and I were having dinner in Barcelona. The other diners were staring at us. Staring at Malone, actually. I had gotten a restaurant recommendation from a friend. This was before the days of go on the internet and check out Zagat, and it was a bad choice. They brought out quail eggs for an appetizer. "Man, I don't eat this shit," said Malone, a country boy from Louisiana who never hesitated to remind you of that fact. "I don't either," I protested. "Do I look like a quail egg guy?" "I don't know what you white people eat," Malone said, winking at Dupree, also an African-American. When we finished, Karl promised to check on the photo op and get back to us. "We clear that stuff with Magic," said Malone. "He's the captain." There was no better indication that the Dream Team had become one big, happy family than Malone's unquestioned acceptance of Magic as ceremonial captain. Malone had never been a huge Magic fan, and just a few months later the mailman would openly question whether Magic should be allowed to play in the NBA, given the fact that Johnson had the AIDS virus. Then, too, there had been several times during that glorious summer of 1992 when Malone had tired of the relentless chatter of Magic, the go-to spokesman, a man who, as Scottie Pippen puts it, always needs the microphone. And Malone wasn't the only one. The days went by. The United States rolled up easy win after easy win. Barcelona and the world beyond continued to watch in slack-jawed awe, and the team continued to bathe in this heady marinade of adulation, testosterone, and 40-point victories. We heard nothing about the photo op until about a half hour before the Dream Team was to play the gold medal game against Croatia on August 8th. "Now?" I asked Brian McIntyre, the congenial and consistently competent head of NBA public relations. "Christ, they're going for the gold medal." But Brian escorted David and me behind the members-only ropes that led to the most famous locker room in the world, just as the Dream Team was emerging to take the floor. "Let's go. Let's get it done. Let's take it to 'em." I couldn't separate the voices, but there was much clamor and clapping. It suggested Croatia was about to enter a world of pain, which it subsequently did. Suddenly, Magic halted the procession so that, I'm mortified even as I write this, Dupree and I could be photographed with the team. It was as if a band of brothers on the way to battle had been halted to share hors d'oeuvres with Anderson Cooper. There were several expressions of "what the hell are we doing?" confusion, but the team stopped. Dupree and I slipped into the front row, and NBA photographer Andy Bernstein prepared to take the least compelling photo of his illustrious career. And as we posed, my groin tight, flop sweat soaking my brow, praying that this moment would soon be over, I heard a voice from the back row, one with a distinctive Hoosier twang. "Hey, Jack," drawled Larry Bird, "later on, you want to blow us?" If you'll permit a metaphorical extension of Bird's transitive verb, and who among you would not, this was the most filleted gang of warriors since the Spartan army. As the members of the Dream Team, one by one, had accepted invitations to become the first NBA players to participate in the Olympic Games, they understood that they were signing on to something special. But from the first moment they came together to practice in San Diego on June 21, 1992, they had been the central players in an unprecedented spectacle, an adoring public and almost as adoring media bestowing upon them attention that can only be described as pornographic. It's become so commonplace to describe them as rock stars that I won't even do it, although I guess I just did. They were Jagger mugging in an open limo, Princess Di flashing her come-hither smile at an Elton John concert, Liz Taylor air-kissing Michael Jackson at an AIDS benefit. By the time the Dream Team landed in Barcelona, thousands having gathered just to watch their plane touch down in twilight at El Prat de Llobregat Aeropuerto, they knew that they were on a march into immortality, not a footnote to sports history, but an entire chapter. An accident of timing, that most blessed breeder of success, put me in the middle of all this. From 1981 to 1985, I had been at Sports Illustrated as a kind of relief pitcher, long man more than closer, as the second, third, or even fourth backup on pro and college football, pro and college basketball, boxing, baseball, and track and field. In the winter of 1982, I wrote 8 stories on 8 different sports in 8 weeks, including the World Championship of Squash, held in New York City at the Yale Club, to which I was denied access until I had purchased a sport coat and tie. I am not suggesting that this equates to, say, walking through rice paddies and swiping leeches off your body to cover the Vietnam War, as the late David Halberstam, who became an NBA chronicler at a plane considerably elevated from my own, once did. It's merely to say that I needed a stable home. And in the fall of 1985, I got one when managing editor Mark Mulvoy put me as the #1 man on the NBA beat. It is the dirty little secret of journalism, maybe it's not such a secret, that you're only as good as your material, and man, I parachuted into a valley of material so rich and fertile that only the worst kind of hack could have screwed it up. Under Mulvoy, Sports Illustrated was largely a front-runners magazine. That is, we wrote about winners and put winners on the cover. In the years before Barcelona, I wrote dozens and dozens of stories about these men who were, as we realized even at the time, creating a kind of golden age of pro hoops. Along the way, I was accused by readers and friends of variously favoring Jordan and the Bulls, Bird and the Celtics, and Magic and the Lakers. Years later, after he had become a general manager in Indiana, Bird would usually greet me with, "You blown Magic lately?" The man does like that verb. I thought I did an adequate job of covering the beat honestly, tossing out criticisms along with encomiums. To varying degrees, stories I wrote in the 1980s and early 1990s angered Jordan, Barkley, Drexler, and Ewing. But part of what made this the golden age, from a journalist's perspective, was that these guys understood the implicit contract between athlete and writer, that it was not a crime against humanity when someone wrote something bad about them, that journalism was not to be confused with hagiography, even if they didn't know what hagiography is. It's a system of checks and balances, as someone described the relationship between athletes and the press to me not long ago. That was Michael Jordan. I feel fortunate to have come along when I did, and I apologize in advance for making myself a small part of this story. "You can't help it," one editor told me. "You were along for the ride." I was a minor league Cameron Crowe, almost famous, walking in the shadow of a dream, as did Mr. Dimsdale, Nathaniel Hawthorne's tortured minister in The Scarlet Letter. I even had something to do with the nomenclature and explosion of the Dream Team phenomenon. In February 1991, well after the announcement that pros would be allowed into the Olympics, but well before any player had publicly committed, I wrote a Sports Illustrated cover story projecting what the team could be and naming my choices for starters: Jordan, Magic, Ewing, Barkley, and Malone. I thought that they were the 5 best players in the game at that time. I would have had the 35-year-old Bird on my starting team. Though he hadn't made an all-star team since 1988, it wouldn't have been a totally ceremonial choice, because the man could still play. But he had already made noises that his back was too creaky, and he probably would not go to Barcelona. I took him at his word. We gathered those 5 together at the 1991 All-Star Game in Charlotte for a photo that had taken months to set up, clearing the time with the players, their agents, and the NBA. I had been such a pain in the ass about it with the players that when Magic entered the room where the photo was to be taken, he looked at me and said with some exasperation, "Okay, you happy now?" With more prescience, I should have seen on that day what the U.S. Olympic team would become. Despite the fact that the shoot took place in a secured area, hundreds of onlookers pressed in when they caught glimpses of the players. They pushed against the door and tried to find a rear entrance to the room, hoping for just a glance at their heroes. It's beyond obvious that any individual fame the players had, which was considerable, had increased exponentially by their being together. And in Barcelona, it would increase exponentially. But all I remember thinking was, now this is interesting. The opening to my story in the following week's magazine read, "It's a red, white, and blue dream. The 5 players who grace this week's cover playing together, determined to restore America's lost basketball dignity in the 1992 Olympic Games in Barcelona. What's the chance of this dream coming true? Not bad. Not bad at all." The cover photo was accompanied by the tagline, "Dream Team," right up by the Sports Illustrated logo. So there it was for the first time. Dream Team. Years later, I was credited with coming up with that magical appellation, but I always tried to set the record straight. Yes, I had used the word dream twice, but an editor had put dream and team together on the cover. I even tried to find out exactly who had come up with it at the office, but couldn't do it. SI cover lines are written democratically, by trial and error. Chances are there had been multiple possibilities. Golden Dream, red, white, blue, and ready, look out world. But Dream Team it was, and Dream Team stuck. To this day, Barkley believes he was one of the first 5 players chosen by the committee because he was on the cover. Trust me, he wasn't among the first 5 to be picked. Once in a while, something just clicks, and that was the case here, says Rick Welts, now the president and COO of the Golden State Warriors, but then the NBA's resident marketing genius. After that cover, the idea of Dream Team really took off.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?